Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we are going to finally start creating our conversation page. So without anything further to do, let's get into it. So inside of our pages, we'll create a new file and I'll call this file our conversation underscore page dot dart. Then what we're going to do is that we are going to firstly import the material library from Flutter. Once we have the material package imported, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new class. And I'm going to call this class our conversation page, which is going to extend, and we're going to extend a stateful widget. Once we have this, I'm going to create the corresponding create state method inside of our create conversation page. I'm going to remove the comment. I'll go down and I'll also create another class, which will be the corresponding state class that is going to manage the state for our conversation page. And I'll call this underscore conversation page state. We'll extend state of type conversation page. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to define the actual build function for our conversation page state. With that, what I'm going to do is that for our actual build method, I'm going to return a scaffold. For now, it's going to be empty. And then for our conversation page, what I'll do is that I'm going to return the actual conversation page state. With that, I'm going to do Alt-Shift-F, Command, Save, make sure nothing is broken. So now with that, what we're going to do is that we are going to actually define some of the attributes that our conversation page is going to require for it to actually be initialized. So without anything further to do, let's get those going. So inside of our conversation page, I'm going to define some properties. The first property that I'm going to define is going to be our conversation ID. So the conversation that we are currently in. Then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to define the string and then the ID, and this is going to be the receiver's ID. So we have a sender ID and then the receiver ID. After this, what we'll do is that we're going to define an image. This image will be our receiver image. So receiver and then image. Once we have that, what we'll do is that we'll define the actual name for the user that we are talking to. So name. Once we have the properties defined, I'm going to add a conversation page constructor, and then inside of here, I'm going to do this dot underscore and then conversation ID. We'll have this dot underscore, and then we'll have our receiver ID. Then we'll have this dot and then underscore, and we'll have the name for our receiver, and then finally this dot and then underscore, we'll have receiver image. And I'll change the name to also receiver name so that it just follows the actual naming scheme that we are trying to follow, and then Alt-Shift-F, Command, Save. So with that, what I'm going to do is that I am going to now actually create the ability inside of our recent conversation page when we click on a recent conversation that it takes us to our conversation page. So let's get going with that. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to a recent conversation page, and then I'm going to actually find the code block which is responsible for actually responding to clicks on our list tiles. So we're going to go to the conversations list view widget function. Then inside of there, we'll have a list view.builder. And inside of our list view.builder, you're going to see that we'll have an on-tap function. So inside of this on-tap function, we'll perform the actual action of going from our recent conversations page to our actual conversation page. So to do this, what we'll do is that we'll go to the top and we'll import our navigation service. So I'm going to do import and then dot slash and then services and then navigation service. With that, I'll do Alt-Shift-F, Command, Save, and I'll come down. And I'll come down to where we have the on-tap callback. And then what we're going to do here is that we're going to do navigation service dot instance, and then this time we're going to do navigate to, and we're going to use the route function. If you remember, when we defined our navigation service, we defined the navigation to route function, which actually took in a material page route. And the reason we need this is because we cannot use just simple routes that we define inside of our main.dart file, because we have to actually send some data to our conversation page to get it initialized, which is the conversation ID, receiver name, and receiver image. So that's why we're going to employ a route here. And if you need a quick refresher, what we can do is that we can go to our actual navigation service, and you're going to see that navigate to route is this function, where we actually push an actual material page route. So now our function expects a material page route. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to define the material page route here. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a corresponding semicolon here, to Alt-Shift-F to reformat the code. And then inside of this builder function, we're actually going to define what the page is going to look like that we return, or the page that we're going to navigate to. So we're going to get a build context. And then inside of here, we'll return the actual page. And then I'm going to add a comma here just for reformatting purposes, and one here to undo Alt-Shift-F. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to, inside of here, return our actual conversations page. So I'm going to go to the top and I'm going to actually import our page. So I'm going to do import .. and then pages, and then our conversation page. Do Alt-Shift-F command, save, come down. And then now we can return our conversation page. So now you're going to see that we need the conversation ID, the receiver name, and the receiver image. So to do that, what we can do is that for our conversation ID, as you remember, we had a conversation snippet. If you remember, like data index name, data index last message. So what we can do is that inside of here, for our conversation ID, we can do data, and then the index, and then our conversation ID. And I'm going to do Alt-Shift-F. Then for our receiver ID, all we have to do is that we have to do data, and then the index, and then dot, and I don't know what this is, but data, index, and then dot, and then the ID of the user that we're talking to. Then we'll also have a receiver name, so it'll be data and underscore index, and then dot, and then we'll have the actual name. And then finally, the last thing would be our actual receiver name. So it will be data and index, and then dot, and then we'll have the image. So with that, I'm going to add the semicolon. I'm going to do Alt-Shift-F, command, save. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to reload our application just to make sure that nothing was broken. And now hopefully, fingers crossed, when we click on our actual list tiles, we should be taken to our conversation page. So clicking on our list tile, we were taken to a conversation page. Now inside of our conversation page, what we can do is that for our scaffold, we can create an app bar. And this app bar is going to show some information. And the information that we want to show is really simple. So I'm just going to copy in some already pre-written code, which is for our app bar. And this is all. And what we're going to do is for our text, what we'll do is that we're going to do this.widget. And then we'll have the actual receiver name. And with that, I'm going to do Alt-Shift-F, command, save, and hopefully you're going to see that our app bar shows up. Finally, the last thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to also change the background color for our actual scaffold. And the background color is going to be our actual theme.off, and then context dot, and then we're going to see our background color. And we're going to do Alt-Shift-F, command, save. And with this, we have the ability now to actually go back to and go to a new conversation. So if I click on Tom Cruise, now hopefully Tom Cruise shows up. So now I'm going to end this video here, and now in the next video, we're going to further develop our conversation page.